What is up, y'all? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And on The Stack, we got a packed stack for you today. We got a ton of reviews, big issues coming out, so let's jump right into it. Talking about Batman number 100 from DC Comics, written by James Tynion IV, art by Jorge Jimenez, Carlo, Pagulayan, and Guillem March. This is the culmination of the Joker War. It's all been coming down to this. Big stuff happens here as the Batman takes on Joker mano a mano.
Man to man.
Man to man. That's what it translates as. For all of Gotham, there's some twists, there's some turns here, there's some backup stories. What'd you think? Oh, God.
Oh, no, sorry. Alex.
Oh, wow. Don't die. Why would you
die?
That,
Joker gas.
Joker mist.
Joker mist. Yeah, I've been Joker misting myself.
Smart.
Oh, nice. Just to clear up your throat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you got to build up a tolerance. So that way,
yeah. Exactly.
That's smart.
What'd you guys think about this issue, and what'd you think about the storyline as a whole?
I liked it. I especially liked sort of the battle, the sort of Joker bat uniform, and that sort of Joker becoming Batman. I thought was a nice thing here. There are some funny lines in here of Alfred's corpse saying he wishes he was Aquaman's butler.
That's not funny. That is not funny.
No,
that was painful.
An underwater butler, so fun. How do you make tea? All the waters. It's all water.
Yeah, I felt like first off, the art's fantastic. I feel like the landing didn't stick as hard as I would have liked it. Like normally when we have these big kind of like build-ups, these huge fights, the wrap-up's great, but like there was a lot of like kind of weird stuff that happened. I felt like there was this epic showdown and then it wasn't between the Joker and Batman because Harley Quinn showed up and then kind of made it be like, yo, one of us are going to die tonight, which is holy shit, raising the stakes. But like, it wasn't kind of like the classic showdown. It was a real switch of kind of like status of like Joker trying to be Batman. I did like the things that kind of Joker was saying during the fight. I thought that was like classic cool Joker shit. But like the stuff I was kind of a little disappointed with was the wrap up and kind of like the Batman talking to the clown hunter. I felt like that could have been a little bit better. I had a weird feeling after that was over. Also, like, it was crazy to me that, like, Catwoman seemed to be making moves, but then there was just, like, a shot of her watching fights, which was kind of weird to me. But I really think that, like, overall, this was a really cool arc. Very awesome twists and turns. A lot of fun. The Alfred shit to me was a little too rough, too soon. Seeing the corpse shit was really hard. But
I was going to say it's great to see Alfred back in his good shape and perfect form. This is the Alfred I want to see.
The Nightwing shit was badass. Like Nightwing got a lot of respect in this, so that was kind of cool.
I love the Oracle stuff. It was so much fun having Barbara back as Oracle. That was great. It just really shows the deep well of love that James Tynion has for DC Comics history that really came out on this issue. I agree with you that the execution of the ending felt a little asterisky, particularly given how big everything is built over the past couple of issues. But James Tynion came out on Twitter and said this was supposed to be his ending. This was supposed to be his last issue of Batman. And then when he found out he would be ongoing on it, he had to scramble and change his plans and change his whole outline to serve some other masters and serve some other storylines that are happening. So I think it's not purposeful, but that is a victim of circumstances more than anything, that rather than making it this big exclamation point, it became the ... in the middle of the ongoing Batman story. And I do like the place that he finds Batman at the end of this. I actually did really like the Clown Hunter story, the idea that
I like Clown Hunter's story for sure. I felt like Batman kind of just lectured Clown Hunter in a weird way and then was out.
What I think was different about this almost pivots off of what Jeff Johns is doing over in Three Jokers, is this idea that Batman keeps bringing in these orphans, breaking them, ruining their lives, and then being like, well, time for new orphan. That he's doing something different here, which is similar to what they did with the Signal as well, is, I think, smart. And it's a progression of the character that personally I like.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also think, despite the change in sort of plan for James Tynion, I feel like his point was, rather than have Batman play Joker's game the entire time, in this, the end of this is like Batman being like, I'm not going to take the bait. And I thought that was sort of a nice... Batman's usual tactic, or at least for the past few years, is he takes the bait and then suffers horrible consequences, but he endures because he's Batman. And I actually like...
he got stabbed in the back a bunch. That's suffering.
I know, but rather than be like, all right, I'm going to give it all up for the corpse of my butler, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And I like the different take on that, for one. I agree, the Clown Hunter stuff, I thought was actually good. I agree with you, Alex. It's nice if we're going to walk away with like this new character. I think that's cool. Clown Hunter's a cool character. It's like if Damian Wayne took the other path and didn't become a Robin, it feels like. The one thing with the sort of Joker little epilogue at the end, Joker, why he's become this like chemist? Why is he such a chemist? I don't know why that makes sense. It's like, I've invented a gas that perfectly turns you into a Joker, so much so that no one will be able to tell the difference in my body versus your body.
But also, he's really into newspapers and, like, likes to get his news old-timey, just like sitting down, stacking newspapers, go through each one, see the headlines, soak it all in. So it's like this mix of like he's up to date on all the latest chemical stuff, but likes to get his news old school.
It's crazy. It's crazy stuff is what I tell you.
Yeah, a lot of fans are definitely going to identify with Pete's point he just made with the newspapers.
This is a very good issue, though, and I think this whole arc was good. Definitely pick it up in trade or individually if you like. Next up, Lock and Key in Pale Battalions Go, number 2 from IDW, Storytellers Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. This is continuing a story of back in the day from Lock and Key as we follow John Locke, but a different John Locke that lost as he goes to fight in the war. He has aged himself up using one of the magical keys. And this issue, we see things from the German perspective of the war as they are attacked.
Creepy way to put that.
But... again, we talk about this every time. There were 2 different world wars. One of them was a world war, the second one, with Nazis. This is the First World War, which was also with the Germans, but it's not creepy in exactly the same way. Pete,
it kind of is, though.
Oh, my God.
Different wars. World War I, Pete, the Balkans were a powder keg. And then all of a sudden, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand really set off a series of chain of events with entangling alliances that led all of these different countries to declare war on each other. And then, of course, further countries got eventually entangled. And here we are with John Locke aging himself up to take part.
There you go. So this comes from the German perspective, which is not a creepy thing to say. And
it's a creepy thing to say.
Stop it! John Locke is attacking them. Again, as with the first issue, a bunch of classic Gabriel Rodriguez pages in here. There's a page with, this is getting into spoilers, but there's a page where he uses the Crown of Shadows to attack that is just terrifying in exactly the right way. The twist at the end, which I won't spoil, it's so smart, so well done, and clearly points to not just where they're going with this series, but also with Helen Gone, which is the Sandman crossover. So I love seeing that path there. Pete, what'd you think about this one?
It's really fantastic. I mean, the art is unbelievable. It's crazy storytelling. I mean, the fact that I'm caring about these fucked up soldiers is kind of way back in the day is really impressive to the art and the storytelling, But this is really interesting what happens at the end and how it kind of makes sense to why we are seeing this in such a cool way. I'm very impressed with this comic. It's just kind of so excited when there's a new Lock and Key comic because you're like, what the fuck is going to happen? How scared and freaked out am I going to get? And it's constantly delivers.
And the fact that they were able to just tell a legit war story. I mean, this is a straight up war comic. There's not a lot of lock and key bells and whistles to it. We get a little bit of that, but it really is just like a war story being told from the lock and key perspective, and obviously the German perspective, which I think we all find totally normal. Just a really good issue, and the way they do find another, especially the art finds another angle on war horror is so smart.
And it's interesting that, like, it seems like in this issue we got a shout out to the TV show with that fire key that I don't think was from the book. I think it was from the TV show, right?
Yeah, the matchstick key. I can't remember honestly the continuity there. I think it was something they came up with, but didn't use, that they ended up using on the TV show first. Okay. Versus in the comic book itself. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, that is interesting to see. And it's great. It's just good stuff. Always
it's great stuff.
An incredible issue out of the gate every single time. Next up, one I'm very excited to talk about, Amazing Spider-Man number 850, aka number 49, from Marvel, written by Nick Spencer, Kurt Busiek, Tradd Moore, and Saladin Ahmed, art by Ryan Ottley, or better Ramos, and Mark Bagley, Chris Bachalo, Tradd Moore, and Aaron Kuder. So this is a conclusion of the Sin Eater storyline, the return of the Green Goblin, and also a couple of backup stories. Justin, I'm curious to hear from you. You seem to really like the Sin Eater storyline in particular. What was your take on the ending here?
It got a little muddled with the Green Goblin stuff. Like, I thought the first couple issues of the Sin Eater arc I thought were so good, so smart, felt very timely, and like responding to the world. It was such a tonal change from Nick Spencer's sort of like jokey Spider-Man into this like very serious Sin Eater storyline. So it felt like sort of a hard right turn into Peter Parker dealing with the Green Goblin stuff, and so like much more historical, and it felt far less present to the modern world, and sort of weird the way that he becomes like a juggernaut, but with no head, like a mushy head.
Can we talk about that for a second? So
just a raged out, like no neck dude.
Well, the weird thing is, so the Sin Eater, when he shoots people now, he gains their powers, right? So he shoots the Juggernaut, and then I liked, generally speaking, just divorced of anything, the design of this, because he gets this Juggernaut-shaped veiny head, which is pretty gross. But the Juggernaut doesn't have a head like that. Like, he has a normal head and he just wears a helmet. So what was going on there?
I like the idea that maybe Juggernaut sort of like just smooshed a little bit into his old, the clothes fit the man.
I think you start to like, your body forms to the helmet after a little while, and then it's like you take
like
off
a turtle,
the helmet. It looks like you still are wearing it a little bit, and I think that's what happened here.
Like, Pete, at this point, your feet have taken on the shape of your Punisher's slippers, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I did like the Green Goblin stuff in this issue. I think Nick Spencer did a good job of driving up the, and I'm using this word appropriately here, creepiness of the character.
Especially once all the other Spider Family characters were there, I was like, whew.
Oh, yeah, that whole Gwen stuff was crazy.
Gross. In the exact right way, though. Like the way that Norman Osborn is gross, that I don't think we've seen him this way in a very long time. But it's weird. I'm curious to see what happens in the next issue, because it seems like we're finally getting into all of the Kindred stuff, which is this villain that he's been building up over the course of all the issues.
But I gotta say, like, the fact that the reveal wasn't in this issue, I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, it really felt like now's the time to do it, and it sort of it feels like we've missed our shot to finally get the reveal.
It particularly the way the end. Sorry, Pete. I was just going to add there. Particularly the way the ending is paced, and this is obviously a spoiler for the ending, but they mix everything that's happening with Spider-Man, with the Green Goblin, with everybody, with Kindred walking towards this grave and walking up, and it definitely felt like this is the point where we see Kindred walking, looking at a grave, and now we know who Kindred is. And instead, we still have no idea. What were we going to say, Pete?
I was just going to say, there's nothing like the old hanging out next to a grave, you don't know who I am moment that everybody loves, Yeah, it's a little frustrating we don't have more information, especially after all we've been through. But I also really like the backup stories. I'm a sucker for Chris Bachalo's art, and also
Moore's art, also very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Four Shoes story with that art is so glorious and fantastic.
Pete, Dog Wizard. You love a good Dog Wizard.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Dogs and wizards together, what's not to love?
No, wait, could I throw out at you before we talk too much about the backup stories, theories about the identity of Kindred? Pete?
I'm trying to think of what was the Care Bear with the little cloud on it? That's who I think it is.
Oh, okay, great. Justin, you have any theories?
I mean, what are the third rails we going to touch here? Like, it's been built up so much; it has to be a big character. Is it the dude who killed Uncle Ben?
I guess it could be that. I'll throw out one. This is not my theory. I read this today. What?
I think it's Doc Ock.
Doc Ock. Joe Chill. It's Joe Chill. I'll throw out one of you. I love this theory. I read this. I think it was on Nerdist or something today. They had a bunch of theories of who it could be.
I've heard of that.
The theory was, Pete, you are going to 100% absolutely hate this theory, but I'm so excited about it. The theory is it's Peter Parker, but it's Peter Parker from the pre-One More Day continuity because they fucked up the Mephisto curse by Mary Jane and Peter Parker getting back together. So it's split up the reality. And so Peter Parker, who made that deal, is now Kindred trying to get it back.
Wow.
If we can finally undo that bullshit, that would be glorious.
That feels so arch and unnecessary.
Yeah.
Or necessary.
But I kind of love the idea. I love the idea of it being Peter Parker, maybe. I think that would be interesting.
Or Peter Porker.
Ooh, interesting. But here's the thing. So much of Kindred is I was buried. I was under the ground. I feel like it has to be a dead character come back to life.
Yeah.
Hangs out in graves.
Maybe it's their marriage. It's
yeah, there you go.
Oh,
the physical representation. As we all know, marriage is covered in giant centipedes. Let's move on to another title. Transformers Back to the Future #1 from IDW, written by Canan Scott, art by Juan Samu. So this is exactly what you'd expect from the title. This is the Transformers mucking up the Back to the Future continuity. And I'll get into a huge spoiler here, but I was getting very worried that they wouldn't do the thing that they do on the last page for most of the issue, but when they did it, I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, glorious. Glorious last page reveal. This was fun. This was cool. I liked how they took the things that we knew. We kind of got different perspectives, a little POV, in the mall scene. I thought that was really fun and kind of great use of clashing these two kind of worlds together in a way that made sense. And
I think this makes perfect sense. No one would ever be like, this is an unnatural blending of two different properties.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love seeing little... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the famous line, 1.21 Megatrons.
Yeah.
I do think they do a good job here. I think when they finally get to it, and to spoil a little bit of the book, but they do a Back to the Future 2 with the Transformers kind of weaving their way through Back to the Future continuity, saying, ooh, we could use some time travel to really take down the Autobots. And then, of course, they finally do. We get the classic view of Hill Valley Square, except Transformers have taken over the entire world. Biff Tannen, of course, is working for them, and Marty is trying to get away. It's just silly, fun stuff. I had a much better time once they finally got to it in the second half of the issue versus the first half of the issue.
Don't fucking do that. Don't break it up into halves.
But I do.
It definitely felt like mashing up your toys when you're a kid in a fun way.
Yeah.
I agree. Next up, American Vampire 1976 from number 1 from DC Comics, written by Scott Snyder and Rafael Albuquerque. We talked to Scott Snyder about this when he was at our live show a couple of weeks ago, so definitely go and listen to that podcast. But this is, as you can imagine from the title, continuing and finishing the saga of American Vampire. Now in the 70s, there's disco, there's big afros, everything that you'd expect going on in the title. This is also, I will say, as much as I love this, and as much as I love Rafael Albuquerque's art in particular, this is definitely a deep dive into my subconscious to be like, who's that character from American Vampire? I haven't read this in a while. But I enjoyed it nonetheless, personally.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Albuquerque's art, I mean, it's just so nice to be back in his warm embrace. I mean, this art is glorious. They're having fun. You know, the classic, killing vampires with disco. I mean, you don't get tired of that. That's just fun stuff. I think this was a kind of cool wrap up. There's a lot of tie-ins that I didn't remember, like you were saying, Zelbs, but I still enjoyed them. And I think it's just kind of like, a great saying that comes out of this book: fuck history, shred it and forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how you failed social studies, right?
Failed hard.
I agree. I mean, seeing this all together, the team back together, that is so nice. Skinner is such an iconic character. The fact that even though he's not really part of an American Vampire anymore, like, it's just great to have this book back. There's so many great shots. The moment where Travis Kidd is looking over his shoulder, like, it's just such a good blend. Scott and Raphael working together you don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, they're really getting it together, and so is our next book, Getting It Together, number 1 from Image Comics.
How did you come up with that?
I mean, it was just up here. It was just up here in my brain, and it came out of my mouth. Co-created and written by Sina Grace and Omar Spahi, art by Jenny D. Fine and Sina Grace. We, of course, had Sina Grace and Omar Spahi on our live show.
Oh, when?
Just this very week. So go back and listen to that interview despite the unfortunate tech problems. But I really enjoyed this book. If you did miss our live show, it's basically a more modern Friends set in San Francisco that's a little sexier and a little more inclusive, both from a cultural and sexual standpoint. And I thought it was fun. I enjoyed this book quite a bit. What'd you guys think about it?
I agree. I liked it a lot. I talked about my comparison on the podcast of being a bit like Scott Pilgrim, sort of a more modern and more like, I guess, real version of Scott Pilgrim, where the characters are fun and interesting. They're making jokes and they're dealing with their mistakes in their lives. And I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, unlike Friends, this is a little bit less shiny and more real. They kind of get into things. So it's enjoyable. It's nice to kind of just see a great Image comic that focuses on, relationships and the ebbs and flows of life and like how we put up with each other's shit or don't. And, I think it's really well done. You got some interesting characters, some really fun, cool moments. It's a solid book.
And I want to shout out. Who's your favorite friend? Real quick.
Oh yeah, good question.
Favorite friend on the TV show.
Can I go with
Friends?
Joey on this?
Nice. I'm going to say Gunther.
Nice.
Wow.
That, again, makes sense. You're the Gunther of this podcast. I got to say, Pete was right. It's Joey. Joey's the best friend.
Yeah.
Through all the seasons, he's the only one that isn't deeply unlikable by the end.
I do like the power of a good hug here. Is it's a nice kind of thing that's in this book here. And
I just want to follow up though on what Justin said. That's why Joey was the perfect spinoff and worked so well.
Yes, I can't believe it's still going strong 15 seasons later.
Incredible. Just a quick shout out before we move on. Jenny D. Fine's art is great. In particular, character designs are very good in this book. They're very unique. They're very different. They seem more realistic than your typical character designs. And I think she does a good job here. Let's move on to our 10 of Swords block
Yes.
Three books came out today.
X-block.
We're going to talk about them as a little bit of a block because this is
Also,
an interesting event. And Justin, you haven't really been here to talk about this too much yet. Yes, Pete, what's up?
Wait, I just wanted to point out, it's important that you read these in order. I fucked up the order, kind of. Spoiler.
Like a lot of things, it's important you do them in the correct order. Like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You can have breakfast anytime, motherfucker. Don't pull that shit.
Okay.
Birth, life, death.
Yeah, birth, life, death.
Yeah. I'm very excited to hear what order you read these in. But just to read off all three titles right now: Wolverine #6, written by Benjamin Percy and art by Viktor Bogdanovic. X-Force #3, also written by Benjamin Percy and art by Viktor Bogdanovic. Marauders #13, written by Vita Ayala and art by Matteo Lully. So as you can probably tell here, the first two issues are basically one story. They're showing how Wolverine gets his sword. He's going after the Marasma blade, which of course is the only thing that can kill him, as we learned from that very weird storyline where he comes back from hell all the time. But that's the sword he needs to go and battle for Otherworld. And then Marauders 13 is a little more of a one-shot, as it's showing how Storm gets her sword from Wakanda, which of course is a very personal mission for her. What do you think about the storyline so far? And how'd you feel about these issues in particular? And Pete, what order did you read them in?
Well, I'm just noticing now there's the part 3 of 22 part, and if I would have taken the time, I could have paid attention and then not read it. But
you can't judge a book by its cover, but you can read the cover to know what you're doing.
I read part 5 first. I did the Marauders. And then I did Wolverine, and then I did X of Swords. So
that's all right.
That's not as bad as it could have been. You could have read Marauders in the middle, or like X-Force first, and then
the
Wolverine.
last page of Marauders kind of gives it away a little bit for Wolverine.
Yes,
and then you kind
of Wolverine. It does get it together. See, I read the 5th panel on the 6th page of Marauders, and I jumped over to X-Force and read the 7th panel on. Yeah, I know.
Now wait, I do want to hear from Pete, because you've been pretty down on the X-Men in general and down on the storyline from the first two parts. While I've been, I think, pretty positive about everything so far, I've been really enjoying the storyline. But you like these issues, right, Pete?
Yeah. So I guess what you wanted to talk about, how you're a more positive person than me, and you can see the sunshine.
Yeah, like I'm like a ray of sunshine, and you're not.
Yeah, I got a clouded kind of like pig pen kind of thing going on. What I like about this is it's not 80 different fucking things happening at once. It's not fuck island and like you can't, kill anybody anymore and like golden eggs of humans, as well as, the fact that you're no longer a part of everything. You give humans drugs on the side. It's just dealing with this 10 of Swords. Like, okay, there's a showdown coming up. You've got to go get your weapon of choice and go get in your spot so that when it's go time, you're ready to go. So it's kind of like, great, this is what I want. I don't want this. There's so much shit happening in X-Men right now. We can just kind of deal with this side story. And I was so happy we just got 3 stories that make sense, that kind of like, okay, it's each person's journey to get to their place so they're ready to, try to save the world.
It's like a prequel to the choose your fighter screen on Street Fighter 2.
Exactly. Who you're choosing, what weapon, and why.
Why are they there?
I love it.
I like that you refer to this Wolverine story as nice and simple and straightforward, where it's just, classic Wolverine goes to Japan, goes down to hell, burns all of the flesh off of his skeleton, meets a guy from Otherworld who killed people who were the children of Apocalypse, and he has come back to gain an immortal blade that contains a person's soul that is also wanted by the Beast, who runs the Hand, who wants to give them as wedding gifts, except the Beast also hates Wolverine and Marasma, so wants to eat their souls. Like that classic, just very simple.
Give me a straightforward story that I can fucking follow, man.
Totally. All you need to do is read every X-Men book and every Daredevil book, and you got it.
Well, if you don't know that, Wolverine, when he dies, goes to hell and have to kind of, like be reborn every time. I like the fact that they're kind of picking up on that and playing with it a little bit here. And it sounds insane, but with Hickman's all the stuff that he's kind of changed, it's nice to just kind of have like a simple insane
go back
story.
to basics. Yeah.
Let me ask you: did you read? How many of the text pages did you read?
None.
Yeah,
Not a fucking one.
I actually liked a lot of the text pages, especially in the Marauders book, which feels like a good way for them to keep sort of the more fantastical aspects of the Hickman X-Men world in these books, these much more straightforward titles where we are just sort of assembling the circle of swords, of sword characters back on Krakoa. And yeah, it's like these are sort of it's a two-shot and a one-shot where fun stuff happens.
I enjoyed these. I had fun. I still like this crossover. My only little qualms with the Wolverine one.
I like something you fucking can't
No,
like.
I mean, here's the thing is that, like, I don't like the Wolverine goes to hell thing at all. Like, I do not like that as a part of Wolverine mythology.
I don't like that he can be...
I also don't like that Spider-Man made a deal with the fucking devil.
Hold on.
We have to move forward.
Wait, Justin, are you going to call out the skeleton thing?
Yes, I don't like that either.
What is that?
He can't go back to skeleton and grow back. He's not Lobo, another Wolverine.
That's not
that
true.
bothers me as well. Like, I think Benjamin Percy, great writer. The art is great. The storyline is fine. I love having this new Araco opposite to Wolverine, this person who has adamantium skin or armor or whatever is going on there. That's just
like a microfiber.
It's a great Wolverine villain. Like, it's just a really good setup there. But those little things are just like, oh, this is so annoying to me. But I push past them anyway. The Storm story I thought was very good. Like, it's such a smart thing to have her be like, God damn it, I got to go back to Wakanda with my ex-husband and ask for a sword somehow. Viriala puts great history of Storm in there. The art is excellent, and the change of art styles are great. I thought this was a very, very good issue in particular. Yeah. So overall, I'm a big fan of this storyline so far.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Moving on. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
It was really cool to kind of find out about the sword and the way they kind of like gave us the story. Yeah, it was also tough because we're in Wakanda, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. There was the amazing kind of tribute thing. But, and then that, like, he didn't show up till later was also kind of cool and well placed and just kind of caught her red-handed, in kind of the worst possible moment. But the conversation they had was great. And then the ending of the book with, the other two kind of waiting there was really fantastic. Really setting things up and getting us excited for this kind of like Ten of Swords event. I'm very excited for this, and I hope this kind of event can propel the X-Men into a place that is, I don't know, a little cleaner and less insane.
I 100% guarantee you they're going to celebrate winning the Ten of Swords challenge with a big old fuck party on both islands.
Yes. And the Araco fuck party is wild.
Oh, man, that's fucked up.
I just hope they're not bringing 10 knives to 10 different gunfights.
Oh, man. That would be bad. Sonic the Hedgehog, Bad Guys #1 from IDW, story by Ian Flynn and art by Jack Lawrence. This is well outside of my wheelhouse.
What do you mean, Alex?
What I mean is Sonic the Hedgehog is one of those characters I was like, what is he doing? He's running fast and spitting rings out of his body. This is dumb, and I hate this game. I'm not going to play it.
You don't like because you were like a Nintendo
Sonic?
person?
Yeah, I was a Nintendo guy.
See, I was Nintendo too, and I feel the same way because I was like, he's just so fast. Mario is not fast. He jumps. That's his whole thing.
First off, I was a Nintendo guy as well, but Sonic was fun. It was crazy, but it was a fun game. Y'all are.
I like that Alex and I are like Sonic too fast. Slow down. Why are you obsessed with rings? Be happy with a simple life. Be happy with a simple life, Sonic. You're chasing all these golden rings.
All that aside, I felt like this was a kind of very clean, fun idea of like, all right, let's set up some villains. Let's set things up in a way that kind of like makes sense and moves things forward. And I thought like it was kind of cool to see this team kind of come together.
Yeah, Ian Flynn knows what he's doing with these licensed properties. And like you said, taking a bunch of bad guys, even if I don't know a lot about them, he writes them well. He delineates them well. Jack Lawrence's art is cartoony and fun in the right way.
A perfect way,
This is a fun, all ages title, even if I don't personally feel a connection with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now, Pete, how do you like this Hedgehog when he's basically the Flash with spikes?
He's nothing like that. There's no bullshit Speed Force or a fucking, one of those
The Speed Force is like a bunch of rings that he spits out when he's hit. It's the same thing.
Not true.
Same
it's
concept.
Not true. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem with Sonic. Unlike you guys, I think this is a fun book, really well drawn. It's cool.
We don't have a problem with it. We have a problem with you, Pete.
Yeah.
We only find them when they're dead. Number 2 from Boom Studios, written by Al Ewing and illustrated by Simone DeMeo. This is continuing the story of a bunch of salvagers who fly around the universe carving meat off of gods. They want to find a live god.
As you do.
They only find dead gods. I gotta say, the carving meat thing is probably my favorite part of the book right now, just in terms of how weird and gross it is. How are you guys feeling about it 2 issues in?
Well, I'm definitely going to change my will. And I want people to carve meat out of me and, eat it.
Yeah. I can't wait for a Philly Pete steak.
It's going to be fun.
Suck it on a Pete steak.
Oh, boy.
Suck it on a Pete stick.
The art is fantastic in this book. It's very interesting as we kind of like piece together what's going on and this kind of world where they live off dead gods. This is very interesting, different, kind of fun space book, cool characters, good relationships. It'll be interesting to see kind of like how this goes, but I'm on board. I think this is a fun book.
Pete, when we do eventually eat you, because you asked in your will, would you mind if I use like regular cheese instead of Cheese Whiz?
No, you got to use Whiz. Also, I'll have like specific condiments, like the old country sweet, for a little dipping sauce. You know what I mean?
And that'll be made from your hair or something?
No, it'll be from the country
of
sweet.
Of course you're going to be a French dip. You got the Le Page.
Oh,
yeah.
Nothing like a good au jus.
This reminds me, I've been watching the show Raised by Wolves.
God, how many times are you going to talk about that on podcast?
Keep bringing it up. I want to talk about it every time. Let's do it.
I haven't quite finished it yet. Very excited. 2 episodes left. This sort of reminded me of that in a good way. Sort of
save it for Week in Geek, you asshole.
Okay. But anyway, this is very similar tonally, I think.
Yeah, this is good stuff. This is just big, hard sci-fi, and I'm very impressed with this new world here. It's sometimes difficult to get through exactly what's happening, but I'm always intrigued to find out what's next. Talking about another hard sci-fi book, Far Sector number 8 from DC Comics, written by new MacArthur Genius Grant recipient N.K. Jemisin, art and color by Jamal Campbell. Take that, other DC Comics writers. This is kind of tying up the storyline, but opening up some new mysteries. We have our Green Lantern on this planet. She is fighting some digital beings, finally shuts them down. But as mentioned, it opens up new mysteries here. Just every issue of this is just very good. How'd you guys feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean, the art is amazeballs. Every issue is very impressive. Love the aliens reference, a little George Carlin quote. I mean, this book continues to impress. The main character is fantastic. You root for her the whole time. This is kind of a fun mystery, whodunit kind of thing that's slowly unraveling. I'm just constantly impressed with how different this is from Green Lantern books and how much more I like it than Green Lantern books.
Yeah, I think in this issue, it occurred to me just the sense of place and character is so unique in this book. Like, you really feel like this city is difficult for the characters to understand, or the main character to understand. Like it's that's as much part of the mystery as anything else, and I think it's very rare for a comic book to sort of give that off.
Yeah, particularly when you have a Green Lantern comic book where they're usually flitting from planet to planet or going to Oa and then going somewhere else and then back to Oa and then over to Earth. That we're sitting here and living in this place is, I think, very smart and very good. This is a don't miss book every month. Next up, this is one I know you were excited about, Justin. Avenger Man #4 from Image Comics. Script by Matt Fraction, pencils by Terry Dodson, inks by Rachel Dodson. In this issue, we're having our new Adventure Man is dealing with the fact that she is much larger than she was previously.
And denser.
And we find out a lot more about the history of what went on with the previous Adventure Man. How'd you feel about this one?
I like this book a lot. Obviously, the art by the Dodsons is fantastic. And the way the story really takes its time, I said this on the main podcast as well, it really takes its time.
Sure did.
And we get to really explore the powers and origin of the character that so many books have to blow past in one issue. And with this series, we get to really be like her discovering her powers. It reminds me of like sort of the first couple Spider-Man movies and really like languishing in the origin and enjoying it, which is something that I've missed in a lot of new comic books.
Yeah, I mean, some people might just say get to it already, but I see what you're saying.
But I feel like I hear you on that, but with this, it feels like we get to see the characters really enjoying the world that they're in and enjoying this, like, it's this moment of discovery of like
enjoying the journey.
Yeah, and enjoying the beginning of the journey for this character, I think is cool.
I agree.
The art's fantastic. You got some great action, some fun storytelling, great character development. This is a really pro comic that is just kind of just taking its time and being confident in the art and the storytelling.
Well, it's also, I don't know if it's going to pan out this way, but it's a really good all ages comic book at the same time. Yeah. Like, this is something that you could read with kids and have no problem. It's a little complex, but it's fun stuff. It gets a little dark, but good book across the board. Next up, Backtrack #7 from Oni Press, written by Brian Joydes, art by Jake Elphick. We had Brian Joydes on the live show a couple of weeks back.
Wait, did you say Backtrack or Backstack?
Backtrack.
Okay, so my
Backtrack stack.
So this is a car race through time, and in this issue, they find themselves not back in time, but forward in time in the future, dealing with some big stuff here. I really like this issue a lot. This is a big mythology issue, building out exactly what's been going on in the background while they've been doing this race, and I enjoyed finally getting to that stuff, as well as this glimpse of this future timeline. How did you two feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, over-the-top fun. The art is unbelievable. And it's nice to see, even in the future, you can just, cocky robots, you just shoot them down. You know what I mean? Like, don't let those robots talk shit to you. Just shoot them in the face until they fall down. It's good stuff.
Wow. Bad attitude when it comes to You're the kind of guy that would shoot up C-3PO in Empire Strikes Back.
No, come on. Oh, well, 3CPO, yeah. Not R2.
As Will Smith said in the classic movie I, Robot, "Aw, hell no."
Yeah. That's what we were all thinking. Thanks for saying it, Alex.
Anytime.
When we were talking to, when we had Brian on the show, we talked a lot about how the balance between the racing and sort of the other story side of the story is really well handled. And even in this issue, where there's so much about the mythology and just developing the world around these characters, we still have a lot of time for the energy of the race. And I think that the momentum behind the book is really powered by that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, they
great
do.
Art. The colors in this book are also really exciting.
Yeah, they do a great job of balancing like story and action and keeping things kind of grounded, even though it's such a crazy over-the-top idea.
It makes me just, when I'm driving my kids to school in the morning, I just feel the same way. I'm just going crazy, like, pulling to a stop at a red light and slowly getting in traffic and then stopping again.
Oh, man, that's really cool. You should try going through Time. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorite Marvel books that is rapidly going to the top of my stack. Black Widow #2 from Marvel, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Elena Casagrande. We've got a little hint of what's been going on with Black Widow in the last issue as something happened to her, and now she's being manipulated by Arcade. This issue, Hawkeye and Winter Soldier are tracking her down. They find out she's living a happy family life, but of course, Black Widow still got a Black Widow with some hero stuff. This is great. This is such a great twist on Black Widow. This is such a different story for her, and I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah,
I agree. Like this, the way our expectations, and we talked about this at the first issue, where it's like, oh, here's another Black Widow book. Oh, she's dealing with her past. She's being taken advantage of, but she's going to kill people to get back on top. And to find a new spin on it like this, and I love the perspective shift, switching to Hawkeye and Bucky, Winter Soldier, just like trying to figure this out. And I do hope they get to the Winter Soldier Black Widow relationship that was such a great relationship back in the Ed Brubaker run, and was just untimely dispatched with at the end of that run. And I would love to see that become a thing again, despite the fact that she has no memory of it.
What do you guys think? This is the kind of the question. Like, do they kind of interfere here, or do they let her live this happy life that she seems so pleasant and content with?
Well, since she's being manipulated by Arcade and a cabal of villains, I would say they probably should get her out, but they don't know that part yet.
They don't. I just wanted to kind of go, on record here and say, if you guys see me living a brainwashed lie, please don't hesitate to kind of pull me out of that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say let you stay in it.
No.
Do you think some of the younger henchmen that deal with Arcade are like, what are you named after, dude?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, what is it? Quarters? You put quarters in a machine?
Apple Arcade. Come on, that's a thing. Everybody loves Apple Arcade. We're all subscribers.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. What's your favorite game on Apple Arcade? Real quick. Don't even look it up. Just mention one.
Sorry, I'm just running through my favorite Quibi shows. Let me just list those.
Exo Sisters #10 from Image Comics, written by Ian Boothby and art by Giselle Lagacé. This is the culmination of the storyline of the first 10 issues. We've talked about this series on and off. This is about two sisters, as you probably figured out from the title. One of them is real, one of them is kind of not, and they're battling forces of heaven and hell. Great climax in this issue, I thought. Just like a big, fun battle that didn't lose the sense of humor that it has throughout. I enjoy this title quite a bit. How do you guys feel?
Yeah.
I sort of feel the same way. Like, the art has the sort of classic Betty and Veronica, Archie vibe to it, while dealing with these big demonic characters, heaven and hell coming together all around these sisters, these not technically sisters. It's very fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I love the kind of like, even in the middle of the fight, she's like, do you want to tag in? Like, it's just... they're having a good time, even though there's kind of big stakes and things happening. And I really like the kind of sisters relationship. I think this is really kind of a fun book that makes an interesting kind of turn at the end. But this is well done, well drawn. It's one of those ones where you kind of look at the cover, and you're like, oh, I kind of get what this is, and you're pleasantly kind of rewarded for that.
Next up, Deceased, Dead Planet #4 from DC Comics, written by Tom Taylor, art by Trevor Hairsine. If you haven't been following along, we've been loving this title.
Yes.
This takes place in a world ravaged by the anti-life equation. They have found out that Cyborg holds maybe the cure to the virus that is going around. So this issue, they're tracking down Metron, trying to get information from him to put it all together. Another great issue of this title. What'd you guys think about it?
I mean, this comic is insane. This is so much fun. It's nonstop action and fun moments between heroes. Great kiss. Some badass kind of reveal at the end, the last page. Tom Taylor is killing this book.
Yeah, I really like the way the Superman and Batman are done in this storyline. It's one of the rare sort of like elseworldy storylines where I really think the heroes stand on their own. Like I could see these characters continuing on outside of this comic or just really living in this deceased world for a long time.
It's great.
I agree. Next up, Inkblot number 2 from Image Comics, written by Emma Kubert and art by Rusty Gladys. Pete, you're a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
This is a fantasy book with a tiny little black cat. This issue takes a very different bend, introduces some new characters, keeps the same cat. How'd you feel about this?
This is a fun book. I don't know what it is about this adorable cat, but
Someone with a cat is very. I can't stop looking at it.
yeah, I don't know if it's the eyes or the cuteness or just the way it's drawn.
Probably the eyes, because the eyes are the only distinguishing features.
Yeah, but I kind of really love it. I know it's ridiculous, but just seeing this cat who just says meow is just great and saves the day. You know, guys, just because dragons are big and scary doesn't mean they have, big and scary problems. Sometimes you just have a small problem, like the old rat stuck in the nose,
You worship the cat. The way of the cat.
It's way of the cat, guys.
You're a cat guy, though, Pete. That's the thing. That's a secret that nobody knows.
Well, I was a dog person my whole life, but now I have a cat, and so it's just me and Inkblot living the dream.
I like this issue. I just want to know what's going on with this book, because as far as I can tell, this second issue wasn't really connected to the first issue.
Yeah, they're kind of one and done type of scenarios.
Yeah, but the first issue ended in a cliffhanger where they were going to continue the story. So I'd love to get back to that.
No.
That would be cool.
No.
I think the art is very good. I like the world. There's a glorious picture of a bunch of elves standing in front of this. I don't know if it's a portal or what it is in these tree branches that is gorgeous.
Yes.
So I want to know more about this world, but I feel like we're 2 issues in and it's not quite giving me enough information at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what more you need. You got a adorable cat who's solving crimes and helping people out. I mean, what the fuck else you want, man?
I'll still getting that rat. Got to get that rat.
Got to get that rat. That's what it says on my coffee mug in the morning. I drink my cup of coffee and I'm like, time to get that rat. Champions number 1, written by Yves L. Ewing, art by Simone DeMeo. This is picking up on the Champions Outlawed storyline that I think began 35 years ago. I'm not 100% sure.
Wow.
But the Champions have been, they're not allowed to be superheroes anymore. Kids aren't allowed to be superheroes.
It's bullshit.
I'm being a little mean, but this is obviously a victim of the pandemic where things have gotten very, very delayed. Finally, we are picking up on this, though. What do you think about this take on Marvel's young heroes?
I mean, it just sucks that they're, no longer allowed to be heroes and they're trying to be, there's sting operations to get them. I mean, it's heartbreaking stuff, I mean, they earned their stripes. They should be a part of the team,
Exactly. If I were living in this world, I would want 11, 12-year-olds running around shooting stuff, shooting lasers.
Yeah, being in charge of things, making big-time decisions. I love it.
Once the team comes together and this book starts moving, I like this a lot. I'm Vance Astrovic, formerly Marvel Boy, former New Warrior. Like the fact that he's the bad guy here, now he's called Justice. I don't know if he's just this way now. That was interesting, and I guess I'm not super familiar with the dynamics of this team. I like the way sort of the reveal at the end, and I'm curious if this book does have that same vibe of the New Warriors that I liked back in the 90s.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet. It feels like the middle of whatever happened previously and whatever's coming next. But once it comes together, I am interested to read it as well. Last but not least, Decorum number 5, written by Jonathan Hickman and art by Mike Huddleston. This might be my favorite issue of Decorum so far, personally.
100%. I like how we always save this book for last.
So in this book, who knows what really is going on? But in this issue, we are following our former courier character who is now training at a school for assassins. And we follow her as she trains at that school over the course of many, many years. Man, this issue was great. Just a ton of fun. Perfectly relayed out by Mike Huddleston. Phenomenal. Like, I know it's taken us a while to get here, but just a joy to read from beginning to end.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think Hickman, especially on his big two work, really pops when there's a very clear format to the story so that he can live in that format and tell the wildest stories he can think of. I like to imagine that right after Krakoa finishes making love to a neighboring island, Krakoa falls asleep and dreams the comic book Decorum.
Wow.
Wow.
There's some...
And now Delilah will be here all night listening to your heartbreaking stories.
There's some amazing art, some amazing coloring and shading in this book. Really kind of beautiful stuff. But it's also repetitive, and it's also like you're getting these symbols and graphic design.
There's some amazing
pages.
shading. There's some amazing shading right there from page to page.
I get it, man. Like, you like symbols now, and like now every book has to have these little pages in between pages that don't have much but have a little bit, and whatever.
Dude. It is not now. He's been doing that same shit for years.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I guess I'm just catching on to it, but I don't know. I guess if you like it and it's in every book, you kind of get used to it or grow to expect it. But I think the art is glorious, especially with, even though it's repetitive of the same shit, the kind of goriness of it is kind of fantastic. And then you kind of get she finally steps up and what that means and kind of the aftermath. So interesting, cool storytelling, but really took its time, and art's great.
All right, there you go. No better place to wrap up than that. If you would like to support this podcast, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Please come check that out. Hang out. Tell Pete he's wrong about Decorum, or whatever you want. I mean, whatever you want to talk about, this is absolutely fine. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the virtual comic book shop.
Dreams, sweet dreams, you beautiful little islands.